Welcome back, Stats23 here, back again with some knife therapy, and today I have for you the Civivi Knives Altus Button Lock. This knife comes in at $72.25, and just in typical Civivi fashion, you can get it in several different variations. You can get it with burgundy G10 and a black blade, green micarta with a Damascus blade, even wood scales with a black blade. So this isn't what you like. There's definitely something for everyone. Let's get the specs out of the way so you have an idea of the size of the knife. You have a total length of 7.12 inches, a blade length of 3.05 inches, a grip area from there to the back of 3.25 inches, a handle scale thickness of 0.50, a close width in the pocket from here to here of 1.05 inches, a blade stock thickness of 0.118 inches, and the behind the edge thickness on the thinnest portion of this knife is coming in at around 18 thousandths, and this one's sharpened at 25 degrees per side. All right, let's take a closer look at the knife. You have a nice drop point blade with like a bead blasted looking finish on there. Nice top swedge right there that brings that tip down to a nice needle-like point for piercing and doing, detailed cuts with that with the piercing tip right there, or digging into some wood, whatever you want to use it for. The blade steel on this particular knife is in a Nitro V stainless steel. It's an excellent steel. Some makers use it in high-end steels. I have a custom knife that is, not a cheap knife by any means, that's in Nitro V, and I love the way it performs. It sharpens up very nicely, and it's nice to see it on a knife under $100. You have a high flat grind that comes down to a fairly thin edge down here, and allowing this knife to slice fairly well, cutting into cardboard and stuff like that. I had no real issues. I did notice that pretty much every Civivi knife that I've gotten here lately has come with a over polished bevel. So they're either putting it on a strop and over stropping it, or putting it on a buffing wheel, and you can see that it's got like a mirror, somewhat of a mirror finish to it. But while it's going to cut, material like cardboard fairly nicely, when you get into like the sisal rope, kind of like in my testing, there's no bite to that edge, so it wants to skate off instead of aggressively cutting into it. So you end up having to put more pressure on certain materials. Overall, that said, I think the knife performed nicely. I didn't have many other issues besides when I got to that sisal rope cutting. It wasn't the easiest by any means, but I was able to get some cuts into it. I always recommend putting at least one good edge on the knife. That way you can get better performance 90% of the time, and you can put the type of edge that you tend to enjoy using. I like a toothier edge for the most part because I do a lot of cardboard cutting, stuff like that. I just like the way it bites into the material. You do have somewhat of a sharpening choil, as you can see there. However, after that first sharpening, it is going to start to widen up because you're so close to that plunge line. It would have been nice to see them extend that just a little bit further. Civivi used to do a great job of that. They kind of been lacking on that department as of late. You have a row of jimping up here. I call it like medium to mild traction. It does offer some traction, but it's not something I really care about because you do have a nice flat to put your thumb on. I didn't have any instance where I felt like I was losing control of the knife. You have dual thumb studs that are used for the deployment of the knife, and they're comfortable and easily accessible. As you can see, they do stick up a little bit above the scales, and you have this nice little choil cut out so you can easily get your thumb in there. no matter what hand you're using. Very easily done. The action on the knife is outstanding. Nice and snappy, as you can see. The retractions drop shut. You can spidey flick it. Very fidgety due to that button lock, and the same goes with the left hand. You can disengage it left-handed. You can spidey flick it left-handed, and you have that same cutout on that side as well. That action is as smooth as it is because it's riding on ceramic bearings. That paired with a button lock gives you a very, very nice action, because once you release that button, you don't have any friction of a lock bar pushing up against that blade. So you release that, and there she goes. So you could swing it if you wanted to. You could open it up using that button. You know, definitely a fidgeter's dream right there. All right, let's close it up and take a look at the hardware. You have all black hardware, T8 on the pivot, T8 on the body screws, nice and countersunk pan head screws there. Flip it over this side, you have a T6 on the pocket clip, and the scales are peel ply G10 with a mild traction to them. They're not slippery by any means, but they're not super aggressively grippy either. I'm perfectly fine with that. You have chamfers going all the way around, so you don't have any sharp edges where you don't want them to be. The knife and everything I did was fairly comfortable. It's a smaller knife, not tiny by any means, but it's a smaller knife, and it is flat scales, not contoured. So sometimes that can be iffy, but you have a fairly neutral handle grip. You do have a choil right here, but other than that, it's, you know, fairly easy to get a hold of. You have some thickness to fill out the hand. Only thing I did notice is I did start to feel the back of that pocket clip whenever I was doing some of the wood cutting, and nothing that I was concerned about, but, you know, depending on where your hand lands, you know, that could be an issue for you. Let's take a look at the pocket clip. You have a tip up deep carry stainless steel bent over pocket clip. That is tip up left or right hand carry, so that's nice. If you're a lefty, you could swap around that clip, carry it lefty. The screws have been countersunk, but unfortunately they did not countersink the pocket clip into the G10. You know, it's not usually an issue, but it's always possible that the material can get hung up on the actual clip itself. But at least they did do the pocket clip screws. Now let's check it out. In the pocket, you have a good enough ramp right there. It goes in nicely. It's a narrow knife, so it's not going to take up a whole lot of room in the pocket. It does hug the left side of the pocket, so you can get your hand in there very easily. If you put other stuff in there with your knife, it shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. All right. You have black coated stainless steel liners that have been heavily skeletonized to reduce their weight on the top and the bottom. Nicely done there. You have two black coated hourglass standoffs for your back right here, and you have a hidden lanyard post right there in the middle. I'm glad they didn't try to put a lanyard hole in here to disrupt the lines of the knife. I think that's the perfect way to do it if you're going to put one. Now let's talk about the lock. The lockup on this button lock, absolutely no up and down whatsoever. And the only side to side I can get is mainly flex. It's not, you know, it's not like moving inside there. I can flex it just because it's a smaller knife. But it had no issues with the lock failing on me. And I think it's definitely a solid lock. The button lock, the plunger actually has a recess spot right there. So as you can see, you have to, if you barely depress it and you're not going below that, you might have some play, but it's not going to disengage. You have to push that plunger all the way down to get the lock to disengage. All right, let's get a weight on it. First off, in grams, you have 87.5 grams. And swap it over, you have 3.08 ounces. So this is a featherweight. Barely notice it in the pocket. All right, let's get some size comparisons. Ontario Rat Model 1, Rat Model 2. Much closer to that Rat Model 2. Two Civivis that it's very similar to. Got the brazen, has that pretty much same blade shape. Brazen's a lot bigger. And the brand new Civivi Conspirator, another one that is about the same size as the Brazen, but you have it in a button lock form. You have the Kaiser Assassin, which is pretty similar, and the Protect Malibu. Two other awesome button locks. All right, nitpicks and complaints. First off, I would love that if they would extend that sharpening choil just so I can have a little bit more sharpening light before it widens up here in the back. Something they used to do very well. I don't know what happened. Also, I wish they would stop the trying to give us that polished edge, or at least if they do, don't over polish it, because you want to have some bite left to the knife without being able to rub your fingers like this, and it's not going to cut you. So it may look nice, but it just doesn't perform that well. Also, lastly, it's always nice whenever they recess that pocket clip into the G10, being that they're already doing the clip screws. That way you don't have to worry about anything getting snagged up and not allowing it to go all the way down into the pocket. Overall value of the knife, I definitely think the value's here. I think it's a great knife, excellent action. Before this year, there wasn't many. There was only maybe a handful of button locks under the $100 price point. Seems like this year will be the year of the button lock, which is a good thing because the button lock's a cool locking mechanism. If you like to fidget with your knives, it definitely has that fidget factor. This knife has excellent action. It's fairly comfortable in hand. Slicey blade. The Nitro V is awesome steel at this price point. And overall, I think it would make somebody a great EDC knife, or gentleman's carry, work, office carry, however you want to, whatever role you want to put it into. I definitely think you would be satisfied at $72. So there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. If you have the Altus, let me know what you think about it. All right, guys and girls, I hope everybody's having an amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.